Hi, everybody. Welcome to the XenTegra IGEL Weekly Podcast. This is episode 50. I am going to be your host today, filling in for Andy Whiteside. My name is Patrick Toner, and I am joined by Sebastian Perusat from IGEL. Seb, how you doing?
I'm doing quite well. I wanted to start some firework, but I didn't have the chance to prepare it because, number 50 is something really special. I'm happy that it's a community one. Thank you for that. Thank you for having me there.
I would be very impressed if you could do fireworks via the podcast. That would be an impressive display there. But maybe we'll do, get to 100. Maybe we'll do a firework presentation. I think that would be a good way to kick that one off. But yeah, it's a night. We're just talking about the weather. It's nice and moderate where we both live. We had to do some conversions from Fahrenheit to Celsius so we could understand each other there, but we're both about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, which is nice. How's everything going, Seb? How's everything going over there?
Oh, pretty good at the moment. I mean, we have springtime also here in Germany, but it's getting, in Germany, you always complain about the weather. So if it's too cold, it's too cold. If it's rainy, you want to get more sun. If you have more sun, you want to get more rain. So I'm not complaining. We have about 29 degrees at the moment, which is apparently about 85 Fahrenheit. And no, it's pretty warm, but it's definitely more than okay. I mean, I cannot complain. We have workers over there in the garden who are working so they're making a little bit of noise. If you ask Andy Whiteside, we're already at the situation where I made the podcast from my car because we had workers in the house. This period is done now, so we are covering the garden at the moment. So pretty happy about that.
There you go. Yeah, the only thing to complain about this time of year is allergies. I'm just, but I just load up on the Zyrtec and I'm good. No issues there. But anyway, so we're going to be talking about, a pretty interesting topic today. One that is always, I've had many discussions with lots of different customers on this topic, and that's buddy update. So, before, just a little kind of background, before I joined IGEL, I worked in healthcare, and one of the things that I managed was SCCM, and they had a feature, and still have a feature, called branch caching, which essentially would allow for devices to kind of become little firmware repositories. I'm pushing out Windows updates. I'm pushing out large applications. I'd be able to use certain devices. They'd be able to basically download files from each other rather than every device going back home and downloading a large file from the data center, wherever your server's living. So in IGEL terminology, there's a very similar feature, basically almost the same thing, called buddy update. And Seb did a great, article and video on this feature. So we're going to walk through that together, talk about when you might want to use it, how to use it. We'll kind of show the video. Seb, anything to add before we jump in?
No, it's a really perfect introduction already. I would maybe just add one small side that I would like to share with you guys. The actual LXOS 1107 110 firmware is now hitting not exactly, but a little bit less than 3 gigabytes. So that's an information I would like to share because let's imagine that you have what Patrick just mentioned. You have branch officers and you have, I would say, maybe just 10 devices over there. In the standard approach, you would have to transfer 10 times 3 gigabytes, a little bit less, but still approximately 3 gigabytes. If you didn't change something on the feature set, we will cover today how to leverage that bandwidth usage. And I mean, even if I cannot hear that term anymore, which is agile, we will try to be a little bit more agile on the firmware update procedure.
Yeah, and it's a great point, right? That the firmware, it's the blessing and the curse of the Agile Ready program, right? There's so many great partnerships. There's so many great utilities being built into the Agile operating system. That's obviously the approach to date. That's always been the approach, right? Build everything into the OS. May or may not be changing in the future. I don't know if I'm at liberty to speculate on that. But at least for now, in the foreseeable future, because there's more agents, there's more integrations, that it used to be under 2 gigs. Now we're nearing the 3 gig mark. And so we want to make sure that, if you're an Agile admin or a potential Agile admin, you're considering, Agile for your company, this is a great feature that can help you to plan for this and to offload some of that overhead of the devices just downloading massive files, 3 gigs in size. So So yeah, so let's go ahead. I'm going to share this thing out.
Perfect. Just during your sharing process, it's exactly right what Patrick just mentioned. I mean, if you think about the Agile OS, a couple of years ago, where we had the only point where we had 3 different versions of a specific software inside of our Agile OS was Citrix Workspace app, and from a time Citrix was 0. Just because we said that specific Citrix Workspace app works better in specific behavior. So we said we always spent 3 different versions per default in our operating system. Now we have Zoom VDI plugins. Now we have Cisco JVDI plugins. Now we have WebEx. We have so much different components who are working good in a specific combination, but not if you are using a newer version on that side, et cetera, et cetera. And that's the point where we are at the moment. We have to cover every use case in one firmware. And just because Patrick mentioned it, we cannot speculate at the moment, but I can share that it might change in the future. I will state it this way.
Very good. It's very, it's a politician answer right there. It may change in the future. So can you see my screen okay, the Agile community?
Yes, it is.
Okay, very good. So yeah, I mean, so let's kick it off. We kind of explain what the feature is. I'm gonna start playing it. I'll mute the sound here so we're not, getting anything. But you're gonna basically walk through here how to configure this. Well, let's talk about some things that people might want to consider, right? Where is this a fit, Seb? I'm thinking in my mind, what if I have multiple branches? What if some of them, in the US, there's some places, especially in rural America, where you might have locations in those areas and you have very low bandwidth. But what are some of those that come to mind to you when you think about this feature?
That's, I would say, the main goal of the process, that we leverage the bandwidth usage, but also make it more performant. For one simple approach, obviously you can, as CCM is doing it, create a local mirror of your Agile related firmware in the location. So we're not covering it right now in the video, but you can, if you would like, use an external HTTPS or SFTPS or a Samba share to deliver the updates to your branch office if it's already a server over there. But sometimes you don't have a server over there, or sometimes you're not able to administer that server because it's another department or maybe another network branch. So that's the reason why we said it might be a great idea to have an automatism somewhere in our operating system that says we don't want to push the update to 5, 10 devices, so 10 multiplied by 3 gigabytes, but really sending it out to maybe just one device, and the other devices will get the update from the master one. And that's where we are already speaking about the topology, because if you think about the approach to deploy that 10 times, you will use bandwidth, it would make the update slower. You would also have the risk that if something is happening on the network side, I mean, we're delivering already a lot of recovery procedures, and usually if the donor cannot be fulfilled, the device should be still functional. But we all know that if you're doing the updates, I mean, it's the same on my side, something will break just because you're unlucky. You have this little rainy cloud over your head, and that's obviously mostly on my side, and the device is not recoverable. Or on the other hand, you have users who are working in the location, and if you push the update, what Patrick just mentioned, they cannot work anymore because, there's no bandwidth left. And that's where the buddy update, that's our name for that product, for that feature, is coming in. We are choosing one or n devices in the location. That's a manual process that we'll cover in a second. Update that device, and then tell the other 9 devices of 10 to take over the update, not from the UMS, not from a public HTTPS, SFTPS server anymore, but from the master. That helps on one hand to keep the update amount, so the data which is transferred, quite low, because you just transferred maybe one time if you have just one master, or 5 times you have 5 master. But then you can deploy it to 200, 300 devices on site without having the need to change anything. That's what Patrick is showing on the video side. That's a topology about how to set the proper expectation. there is a small hint in the body update topology, which is extremely important because that might be a question that come up from you guys. Can I choose something else than FTP? Because that's what the little topology is showing. We'll cover that in a second.
So Seb, just to kind of pause for a second, right? So
please,
just at a real simple level, somebody's looking at this, they're going, yeah, maybe not quite grasping, the concept here. Let's say you have, just so we're understanding this correctly. Let's say you have a random branch in your company. It's out in the middle of nowhere. It's got really slow internet connection, really no options to update to a very fast bandwidth. And, you have 100 devices there. So rather than 100 devices having to download 3 gigabytes from your UMS server, only one device would have to download 100 or 3 gigabytes from your UMS server. And then the other 99 could download from the one buddy update server on-prem. Do I have that right?
Absolutely right.
So it's a very great feature. And I would say it's probably one of the more underused features out there. And maybe it's just because, bandwidth is generally pretty good on a lot of the customers I talk to on their network. But you do have these instances, and you talk to people where they just, especially a type of business where you have a lot of different customer-facing branches. Maybe it's in banking, maybe you're in some sort of industry where you have a lot of customer kiosks, people checking out. If you have them, the more real estate you have, the more buildings you own, the more of a chance is you're probably going to want to use this feature, because you're probably going to have instances where you have sites with low bandwidth. And if you're going to do it for all of them or some of them, you might as well do it for all of them. Would you agree, Seb?
Absolutely. Nothing to add, to be honest. It's the exact description of the general use case for that. Perfect.
Yeah, so I'll let you kind of go ahead. So Please. You're in the UMS and you're creating the profile. So let's walk through this.
And that's, by the way, something that I would recommend to really keep the order that I'm using for the video. Why that? We are already covering the use case a little bit deeper. So just saying that we have to cover a specific order in how to use the body master. So from the term itself, the body master is the device which will get updated by the UMS and will hold the update information for all the other clients on the network. So we have to enable that feature first. That's the reason why I'm creating a profile, where under system update, firmware update, you have another feature which is called body update. And that's where you define that this device will hold the information. So you have to enable the enable update server first. And then if needed, you can also add a username and password. What does that mean? It means that every client, so in our pronunciation is called body slaves, who are asking for an update from the body master will have to fulfill a username and password to get them. If you don't enter something, the standard approach is to use the anonymous approach. That means that there is no additional authentication needed. The additional thing that I would like to share with you is the max concurrent logins. What does that mean? You have 20 devices in the location, and you said the devices should get their update on shutdown. And you have a job which shut down the devices every night at 8 o'clock. They'll try at the same time to download the update from your body master. Just keep in mind that a data transfer is still quite demanding on memory, and especially if you are using FTP, sometimes also the CPU. So 20 devices downloading the same files at the same moment can cause the body master, depending from the hardware, to fail. And that's a point where I'm always telling, don't use 10 or 20 devices from one body master. You can limit the amount of devices which are taking over that feature. And I would say, in average, I'm feeling pretty good about 5 to 8, to be honest. That's an average value. Then, what I'm covering in the video is the order. I'm first assigning the body master role and then assigning an update. Why that? The device can only keep the information about the update if the body master role was assigned before starting. So that's the reason why I first created the profile, first assigned it to the body master, then assigned the firmware update, and then started the update process itself. And that's something which I would say is the most common error that users are doing. They're first updating the device or just assigning the profile with the body master, but never send an update afterwards. That means that the FTP folder, the FTP server, which is holding the information, is empty because it needs to get the update and then get updated to do that. So even if it's the same firmware, no matter if you had the 1107, 110 on the device and you want to update and you want to enable the body master feature, no big deal. I'll send the profile, I'll send the firmware, and even if it's already the same firmware, just do the update again.
So what you're saying there, just so we're clear, if let's say you've identified which server you want to be your buddy update server at your branch or your location, and it's already running the newest firmware, you can't just assign a profile saying you're the buddy update, because once it becomes the buddy update server, you actually have to push a firmware in order for it to store the firmware.
Absolutely.
Is that right? So yeah, it's very important to get that in order. And I've seen that as well, right? You kind of, and logically, you really may not think that through all the way, but you just think, oh, this is the update server, but now you have to push the update to it so that it's there, right? It's kind of a crucial step, and you need to do it in order.
Absolutely. So I will cover the debugging steps in a second, but that's something that I cannot mention enough, because it will stand and fail in every time. So even if you're thinking then about your update strategy, you have to think about which devices should get the update at which time. Never forget that your buddy master is a masterpiece in your configuration for the buddy updates. Now that we covered the buddy master side, we are now covering the buddy slave side. So we are doing now exactly the same step as from the buddy master, but on the update side. So the system update, firmware update, where you would usually enter your update informations, you have to choose a specific protocol. And that's what I told you at the beginning. We're speaking of the FTP protocol, not because it's the only one available on iOS, but the only one available for the update platform. So even if HTTPS and FTPS or SFTP would be better, no question. We already had the discussion, and we might expect a change in the near future. But for the moment, only FTP is allowed. And I know that a couple of our listeners are not able to use FTP because of security audits or security issues. I must say that at the moment, the only way to deliver such kind of buddy-slave behavior, I just can say, if you would like to add another level of security, I would definitely think of using an FTP authentication. I know it's not encrypted, but it's, let's say, it's the less non-secure way to deliver the update. And just remember that even if your device is non-secure from the FTP side, what should happen? I mean, all our partitions are signed. So even if someone would try to change the update file themselves, it would fail because we would check the signature of the partitions. So in my opinion, at least, the risk is pretty limited.
Yeah, it's a great point. Great point. I mean, it's because of some of the other checks you have in place, this is going to be more for functionality. Obviously, if you're in a situation that we were describing, you need to get that firmware update. It's probably less secure to keep the devices out of firmware compliance, right? Keep them on an old version. You have different things that come out. You have all these different applications, whether it's your browser, your Citrus Workspace app that have security fixes. And so, it's kind of like one of those things, the risk of not doing it is higher than, getting those devices updated.
Exactly. So would you just do me a small favor, but could you go about 30 seconds back to the profile setting? Perfect, because the video was a little bit too fast for my explanation. One extremely important setting in that window is the username password we just discussed, but also this small checkbox at the bottom of the profile, which is called automatic buddy detection. If you could just pause for a second, Patrick. Sure. I just would like to explain what happened there. You're not obliged to set the buddy detection, but it's extremely handy. Why that? I will go a step backwards on the topology and what I would consider if you're using the buddy update. The buddy master will stay there in his network segment and will start an FTP server, which from a security perspective we already discussed is not perfect, but it's one approach. But at the same time, you have your buddy slaves who could be in another network segment or maybe another VLAN, which is not meant to be used this way. I'm explaining what I mean. The buddy slave has to be in the same network segment, the same virtual LAN as the buddy master. Now you may ask, why that? Because it doesn't make sense. I have 100 VLANs in my location. I would have to define one buddy master per VLAN? Yes. The reason is, let's imagine that you have a distributed LAN with MPLS. I don't know if it's the same in the US, but that's how it's virtual LAN over DSL. Let's call it this way. It's an extreme small explanation for extreme complex product. But you have different VLANs, which can be one in Chicago, the other one in New York. So the buddy slave will start a broadcast in the network and will see, oh, I have a buddy master. That's the first one who answered. But this one could be in New York and I'm in Chicago. That's the reason why we said, no, we always keep the request of the UDP broadcast that we are using for the automatic detection in one specific LAN segment. So let's imagine you're in 192.168.1.0. It will just search in that specific area. So if your buddy slave is in 2.0, it will not be able to find the other buddy master. It's not an error, it's not a bug, it's on purpose. Because we want to keep the buddy master and the buddy slave in the same network location to avoid some bandwidth outage.
Yeah, and to that point, Seb, I think it's worth mentioning, right? That this is not going to be, it's not the right solution maybe for everyone, right? I mean, there's going to be some customers that are going to have that, right? I have all these VLANs at every location, and you might say, okay, well, the beauty of the IGEL is there's a lot of flexibility in it. You can, for example, people who use IGEL Cloud Gateway. They have to have firmware repositories that are external facing in order to pull that down. So a lot of customers I talk to, they'll either use something like Citrix Sharefile or Amazon or Azure, and they'll create a public facing repository. They could use an SFTP server, whatever. And for the customer you just described, that maybe they need to take that approach, right? Maybe they have an actual SFTP server in place. Where all the VLANs can hit it, but the built-in functionality is really it's basically there. Number one, the thin client is the update server, right? So yeah, you're not talking about a server. You're talking about not a robust device. So it's designed in a way specific VLAN, right? All the devices that are within my proximity that can connect with me, they're the devices that are there that can update. Did I explain that correctly? I think that's.
It's just perfect. Again, it's exactly what it was meant for, and what I was trying to explain in my English.
Yeah, so I think that's ultimately that's the thing, right? I mean, this is a great feature. As long as you don't have an ultra complex network. I mean, it's a simple solution. It's to your point, maybe not it's not a perfect solution for everybody, but if you do have in your different branches, in your different locations. Devices that are on the same subnet, on the same VLAN, they're on the same, they can connect, they can communicate with each other. This is a great solution to limit your bandwidth. However, you got to have this checked here, this automatic buddy detection.
It just helps. I mean, obviously you can specify in server name whatever buddy master you like. So if you would have in theory, two different VLANs in your location. And the first VLAN is where your buddy master is, and the second one is where your buddy slaves are. Even if the automatic buddy detection is not working there, because we didn't meant to design the solution like that, you can still specify in server name the IP address of your buddy master. It makes it less agile, because let's imagine that you have a DHCP list, the DHCP list address is changing from the buddy master, then you would have to adapt your profile. But hey, if you do a reservation and then add the IP address or the host name, maybe in the server name, then you don't need automatic body detection. But I just wanted to mention it because in a perfect world, in an agile world, I would say automatic body detection should fulfill 90% of our use cases. And just because we had this discussion a couple of seconds ago, what happens if it doesn't work? We already covered that from the profile perspective, but now from the endpoint perspective, if you just can go, I don't know, maybe 20 seconds later, we should see a command line on the endpoint. So obviously it's not something that a little bit more than, yeah, perfect. So obviously it's not meant to be used on every update. It's just meant to be used for checking if your communication is doing well. So the command IGEL update body update server scan will perform the UDP broadcast in the network, will check if there is a body master, and will try to retrieve the information from there. So if you see then, that's what you are seeing in the video, an IP coming back, you should just double check that it's really the body master you were thinking of. If you have multiple ones, it might differ, obviously, but then you're good to go. That means at least the body slave is able to communicate with the body master.
No, I'm always blown away, Seb. Total side topic here. On that note, how many like just extremely useful commands are built into the IGEL operating system? You know, like that one right there, where you have, you know, let me go back to it. It was let me get the exact wording correct here.
IGEL, yeah.
IGEL underscore buddy underscore update underscore server underscore scan, and it's going to scan and say, hey, is there a buddy update? When I think about probe port, another one that's just so nice to check. Hey, can I access a device over a certain port? Question for you, and this is really I actually don't know the answer to this. Is there a public facing document that has some of those commands in the IGEL community?
A really good point. Thanks for asking. Yes. That's a short answer. The long answer is, I must give the credits to the person who created initially. So I have to be absolutely 100% honest. A document like this was created, I would say 10 years ago by a former IGEL employee, which was called Michael Hotting from Germany, who then left IGEL, and he's doing now an absolutely different story. And I said, I don't know, 3 or 4 years ago, hey, why not reusing that document and adding new features, checking if the features are still there? Long story, short answer now. Yes, there is. It's called the IGEL Linux command sheet like sheeting and sheet like an Excel sheet. And you can access on the igelcommunity.com on Slack, or just PM me and I will be more than happy to send you out the link. So yes, there is a list. It's just a small list of an extreme long list of comments. We really focus on what might be interesting for the audience. Some are really IGEL related to specific parts of a script, so binary, which is just meant to be used as a part of a bigger script. We didn't cover them, but mostly really the command line, which might be interesting for the audience.
Yeah, great. Great. Thanks for answering that. I have that cheat sheet. It's kind of made its ways around the inner IGEL SE circles, but
yeah,
I wasn't sure if it was public facing. And it's a great document. So if you're an IGEL administrator, you need that document. It's going to give you a lot of useful commands you can run from a terminal. Anyway, back to the main topic here. Back to buddy update.
Yeah. So what I covered just a couple of seconds later is when we think about debugging the process. We already covered the comment from the command line. One thing that I would like to mention, because it can be misleading, is if you go back to our main topology window in your head, we had the discussion where we had the body master delivering updates to the body slave. Thank you, Patrick. For that specific behavior, we needed to assign an update component to the body update and our profile. But that can also be an issue. Why? Let's imagine that in the same folder where you have your body master and your body slaves, you assigned the universal firmware update file to the folder, not to the body master. Something extremely dumb will happen. The universal firmware update, even if it is assigned to the folder, will overwrite a profile that you assigned to a device. Honestly, I would be happy to say it's logical and it's good this way, but it isn't. It just doesn't make sense at all. I mean, from an IGEL perspective, it makes sense, but usually if you assign something to the folder and not to the device, and you have a concurrent setting on the device side of your profile, the profile on device side will win. And in that specific case, no. So if you have the feeling that your device is still downloading the update from the UMS, it is highly possible that you assigned a firmware update to the folder. Easy way to check: take the device, right-click the device in UMS, go to Edit Configuration, go again to System, go again to Update, go again to Firmware Update, and double-check, please, if there is a setting which is presetting the firmware update folder. It was somewhere at the end, Patrick. I don't know if you can maybe switch to, I don't know, the last 3 or 4 minutes, just to show where we are. Yeah, looks good. So that's where you're seeing the information that we're just referring to.
Yeah, and I think that's probably worth repeating, right? The buddy update profile has to be applied to the buddy update server directly, not in the directory it lives in, not in any of that. It's got to be directly applied. And if it's not directly applied, you're going to have issues with the process, and your devices could potentially still cause network traffic issues if they're going back to UMS.
Exactly.
Very important.
So that's, I mean, there is obviously a way more things to debug, but from a pure experience point of view, if you assign the master profile, then the update, then started the update on the buddy master. You checked with IGEL buddy update server scan that the device, the slave, can contact the master. You should already be pretty good. If you then check that no indirect assigned universal firmware update objects is trying to take over the role, honestly, then you have still the possibility that something on the network is blocking the access. But that's something that you can easily check then with your network tool, like Patrick already mentioned, with Proboport, with NC, with ping, etc., just to check that you're able to access. But honestly, that's less than 2 or 3% of my customers. So that's basically it. I mean, we don't have so much new information regarding buddy updates, but like I said, we might expect a change in the near future regarding the protocols, but at the moment, that's what we have.
Got it. Well, no, I think this is a great overview, and I think this is one of those features that, like I said, a lot of people I talk to, they don't use it or they don't know it exists. It's kind of viewed maybe more in a way, it kind of is a legacy feature. It's been around a long time. And as bandwidth has gotten better and better, maybe there's less of a reason to rely on it. But look, I mean, anyone who's managed any type of network or devices, you're always going to have this. You're always going to have, unless all of your facilities are in a city that are high bandwidth, you're probably going to consider something like this. So I think it's a great feature, and I appreciate this video walking through it. Where can somebody is there a guide on this too, or is this just the only place where this information lives, Seb? Do you know of any?
We have already in the video itself, in the comment section, we have the knowledge base articles, and that's, I would say, one of the first things that I would like to point out, because I didn't reinvent the wheel. I was not the person who developed that feature. So I took over the KB articles who are already covering most of the questions coming up regarding the feature. So what Patrick is just showing in the video is exactly what I'm referring to. Not every debug steps that I just mentioned is described there. So we have a little gap between the written and the video form. But that's also the reason why we are taking over the Tech Tip Tuesday videos, just to fill the gaps between a pure written form and a spoken form about a specific topic.
Yeah, that's great. I see that there's links to all the KB articles, and to be honest, I mean, there's always value. There's always times where you're like, yeah, I just want to be quiet and read, a manual and figure this out. Yep. But then there's also times, for me, I'm more visual in my learning. Seeing somebody do it, it just retains better. So it's great that you do these, so people can have kind of both available to them.
That's for the feedback. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah. All right. Well, Seb, I appreciate this. I think we kind of covered the topic here. Hopefully, the listeners, anyone who's listening, you got something out of this. yeah, give it a shot. If you're an Agile admin, and you want to kick tires on this, you don't have to have any special licensing or anything like that. It already exists. Right. It's worth checking it out, seeing if it maybe is a solution for you. So and I guess we can kind of wrap up here, Seb. I think episode 50, minus the fireworks, it was a pretty good topic, and and I just appreciate your time on this and for putting this out. And for everybody listening, thank you for taking the time. Seb, any closing thoughts?
Just a big thank you to XenTegra again for keeping the podcast up, and I'm really looking forward for the number 51 and 52 because I'm pretty sure that we'll have another great topic to cover then.
Very good, very good. A little teaser to end it. I'm looking forward to 100. I'm really looking forward to those fireworks.
That too.
All right. Well, thank you guys, everybody, and have a great day.
Have a great week. See you. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye-bye.